Welcome, everyone, to a brand new deep dive.
Glad to be here.
And a special welcome to you, our resident learner. If you're joining us today, you probably know that, well, mastering a new language usually comes with this expectation of just massive complexity.
Absolutely.
You picture this like giant, elaborate cathedral of words, with
Yeah.
these towering paragraphs and stained glass metaphors.
Yeah, it's a super common assumption, honestly. We're trained to equate the size of vocabulary with its emotional impact. Like,
Right.
if you want to make a reader feel something really profound, you're supposed to use complex, multisyllable words to do all that heavy lifting.
But what if you strip all of that away? Today, we're taking a really fascinating approach with our source material.
We really are.
We're diving into an excerpt of an English language story. It's titled A Strange Memory of Love. But here's the catch. This text is specifically designed to simplify the English language for students.
Yeah.
It's literally a masterclass in beginner language learning.
Which, actually presents this incredible structural challenge for the author.
Oh, for sure.
Because when that massive cathedral of vocabulary is just gone, and you're looking at like a small pile of very basic bricks.
Just the foundational words, yeah.
Exactly. How do you build a house that is still captivating? How do you make it emotionally resonant?
And that is our mission today. We are going to unpack the plot of this excerpt, break down a specific list of vocabulary words provided in the text, and even tackle some of the grammar exercises built right into the material.
Sounds like a plan.
And, we're going to see how simple language definitely doesn't mean simple emotions.
It's actually quite the opposite, I'd say, because learning a language, as we'll see in the story, isn't just about memorizing arbitrary grammar rules or dictionary definitions. It's about understanding how very straightforward words can be arranged to create this incredibly powerful atmosphere.
So let's jump straight into the hook of this story, because, wow, the author does not mess around.
No, they do not.
For a piece of language learning material, it opens with a premise that is frankly shocking.
It really is.
I mean, imagine you're a student, right? You open your workbook and you read this exact text. Quote, "One day I read a short news story. A man killed a woman and then he killed himself. People said he'd do it because of love."
The starkness of that language is what makes it hit so hard.
Yeah.
There are no adjectives there. There's no flowery language describing the crime scene or the psychological devastation. It's just subject, verb, object.
Right.
Man killed woman. Man killed himself.
It mimics the actual feeling of shock. Because when you hear terrible news, your brain doesn't process it in poetic prose.
Oh, absolutely not.
It processes raw facts.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us to the first vocabulary word provided in our source text, which is memory.
A very foundational word.
Yeah, and the text defines it simply as something you remember. Using the example sentence, I have a strong memory of that day.
The psychological mechanism the author is employing here is just brilliant. By using a violent, tragic news story as the trigger, they instantly elevate the stakes.
Right away.
Yeah, the narrator says, "I was not surprised, but this story brought back a deep memory from my youth, a memory that I have never forgotten."
Which is such a universal human experience. You're just sitting there going about your day, and a random news clipping or like a sudden scent of pine needles acts like a time machine.
Oh, yeah.
Violently pulls you back decades. But I have to ask you about the author's intent here. How does a dark, modern murder-suicide set the mood for what is about to become a very quiet story about a hunting trip?
Well, it establishes a thematic shadow over everything that follows.
Okay, a thematic shadow.
Right. The author introduces this idea of fatal, overwhelming passion doing terrible things because of love, and then they violently pivot the narrative.
They really do.
The story leaps back to the narrator's youth, but instead of focusing on romantic love, it focuses on an entirely different kind of obsession.
Yeah, because the text says, "At that time, I loved hunting more than anything. I loved nature, especially wild and quiet places."
Exactly.
So the love in our title, A Strange Memory of Love, isn't about human relationships at all. It's about the environment.
It's about a primal connection to nature. And this is where the text introduces the next two crucial vocabulary words to help the learner visualize this environment.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first is marsh. The provided definition is very literal, wet land with water and plants.
And the second word on the list is mystery, defined as something strange or unknown. So we have a marsh and we have mystery.
Now look at how the author connects those simple bricks. The narrator states, "Marshes were my favorite. They were full of mystery." And then we get this incredibly evocative line. The air felt alive, and every small sound seemed
Oh,
important.
that line gives me chills.
Right.
And it works perfectly because of that dark opening hook. As a reader, your brain has been primed for violence and death. So when the text says the air felt alive in this strange, unknown marsh, you aren't picturing a peaceful nature documentary.
No, you're picturing a thriller.
Yes.
The simple language is doing double duty here.
Yeah.
The author doesn't need to use graduate-level vocabulary like ominous or foreboding.
Right, right.
By combining the idea of lethal love from the opening paragraph with the strange, wet isolation of the marsh, the reader fills in all the emotional blanks.
That is so smart. The cognitive load for the language learner remains super low. They only have to translate very simple words, but the emotional engagement is sky high.
Exactly.
You're already on edge, so when a twig snaps in this quiet marsh, you're paying attention.
So we have this really rich internal atmospheric setup. We're firmly inside the narrator's head, but a narrative requires motion.
True.
It needs characters and a physical geography to interact with.
Which brings us to the introduction of Cousin Carl. The text transitions from the internal mind of the narrator to the external world, again using highly descriptive but foundational vocabulary. It says, "One autumn evening, my cousin Carl invited me to his home in the countryside. He wanted to go duck hunting with me."
And the character sketch we get of Carl is just a masterclass in efficiency.
Oh, it really is.
Carl was a strong and cheerful man. His face was always red from the cold air, and he laughed loudly. He loved hunting, just like me.
Everyone listening to this knows a Carl.
Oh, absolutely.
He's that aggressively enthusiastic friend who slaps you on the back at 4 in the morning, ready for an intense hike, while you're just desperately clutching a cup of coffee trying to remember your own name.
That is spot on. And the adjectives use strong, cheerful, red, loud. They create a physical presence that immediately contrasts with our narrator, who, prefers wild and quiet places.
Yeah, massive contrast.
And Carl's environment is built to match his oversized personality, utilizing 3 more of our core vocabulary words.
Okay, so the first one of those is valley. The text defines it for the learner as land between hills. Carl's house stood in a wide valley, surrounded by forests and green fields.
Next, we have the verb flow, defined as to move like water.
Okay.
The text paints the landscape. A river flowed quietly through the land and opened into a large marsh.
And finally, we have the word pride, defined as something you are happy about. The narrator simply notes that marsh was his pride.
I want to pause on how these simple concepts interact, actually.
Sure, go ahead.
The river flows quietly, mirroring the narrator's internal state. But the marsh, that strange, unknown place where the air feels alive, is Carl's pride.
Oh, wow.
It's his domain, and we see Carl's energy really erupt during dinner.
Right, which brings us to our last vocabulary word, excitedly, defined as with strong feeling of joy. During dinner, Carl speaks excitedly. He announces, "We leave at 3 in the morning. The birds will be there at sunrise."
Let's look closely at the closing moment of this excerpt, because the contrast here is where the real storytelling happens.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
After this loud, excited declaration from Carl, the narrator goes to bed early, but the text reveals, "I could not sleep easily. I was thinking about the cold air, the silent marsh, and the hunt."
I found this deeply relatable. You have Carl, who's projecting all his excitement outward. He's red-faced, laughing loudly, speaking excitedly.
Right.
And then you have the narrator, lying awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling. The narrator is also experiencing anticipation, but it's an internal, quiet, almost anxious tension.
Yes, and by explicitly using the word excitedly to define Carl's outward, joyful state, the author forces the reader to recognize that the narrator's insomnia is rooted in something else entirely. The tension isn't described with complex psychological terms. It's built entirely out of the simple vocabulary words we just learned. The cold air, the silent marsh, the strange mystery.
It's brilliant world building. Now, usually in a language lesson, this is the point where the student is given a comprehension test to see if they actually absorb the facts. And our source material includes a 7-question quiz built right in.
Which is standard. Testing comprehension is a vital part of the language learning process.
Right, of course.
It ensures the student isn't just decoding individual words, but synthesizing them into a coherent narrative.
But instead of walking through a dry list of textbook questions, let's think about how effortlessly the core facts of this story have lodged themselves in our brains.
Let's do it.
Think about it. If I ask you what triggered the memory, you immediately picture the dark news story about the murder-suicide.
Exactly. And if you ask about the setting, the image of the wide valley with the river flowing into the mysterious marsh is crystal clear.
Yeah. And if we talk about the characters, the loud, red-faced Carl completely contrasts with the quiet, nature-loving narrator. We know their plan is to wake up at 3 in the morning to hunt ducks at sunrise.
The takeaway here for anyone studying a language is that you do not need convoluted paragraphs to lock narrative details into a reader's mind. The simple nouns and verbs did their job perfectly. Strip away the fluff, and the facts simply stick.
But, understanding the what of a story is really only half the battle.
Yeah.
If you want to truly master a language, you have to understand the how.
Yes, the mechanics.
Right? You have to look under the hood at the structural nuts and bolts.
Which is precisely what the grammar exercises in Chapter 1 of our source text are designed to do. They transition the learner from vocabulary to actual English sentence structure.
So the exercises are set up as fill-in-the-blank questions. And looking through them, there is a heavy, deliberate reliance on the past tense.
Which is a very logical choice, considering the narrator explicitly framed the entire story as a deep memory from my youth.
Right, it's a memory. So the questions test the learner on selecting the correct past tense verb. For instance, he blanks a news story, and the correct answer is read, or the narrator blank hunting, and the answer is loved. We also see Carl blank him to the countryside, with the answer being invited. It's building this steady, rhythmic drumbeat of past actions.
It creates a temporal boundary. It tells the reader, these events are safely in the past. They have already happened.
But I noticed an anomaly in these grammar exercises. They completely threw me off at first. I really want to see what you make of it.
Oh, I'm intrigued. What did you find?
Okay, so we just established that this is a memory told entirely in the past tense.
Right.
But one of the grammar questions asks the student to fill in the blank for this sentence. The river blank through the valley. And the options are flow, flows, or flowed.
Okay, and what is the correct answer according to the exercise?
The correct answer is flows, present tense.
Ah.
But wait, in the actual text of the story we just read, the author wrote, a river flowed quietly through the land, using the past tense. So if the events happened in the past, why is the grammar test asking the student to shift the river into the present tense?
That is a phenomenal catch. What you've stumbled onto is actually one of the most elegant subtleties of English grammar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the distinction between a past event and an eternal truth.
An eternal truth. Explain that.
Well, the events of the narrative, the reading of the newspaper, the hunting trip, Carl's invitation, those are temporary actions that occurred at a specific moment in the past.
Right.
They are finished. But geographical facts, the valley, the marsh, the river, those are permanently true regardless of when the narrator visited them.
Oh, wow. That makes so much sense. Even though the narrator was there decades ago, the valley didn't disappear when he left. The river is still there, currently flowing.
Exactly. It would be like saying, I visited New York when I was a kid. The Empire State Building is very tall.
Right.
You wouldn't say the Empire State Building was very tall because that implies it was destroyed or shrank since your visit.
Okay, so the author originally used flowed to describe the river's action during that specific childhood visit. But the grammar test is intentionally using flows to teach the language student that the river's existence is a continuous reality.
Yes. It's a profound hidden lesson for the learner. English shifts its tenses to map out reality. The past tense traces the temporary footsteps of the characters, while the present tense anchors the permanent physical landscape beneath them.
I absolutely love that visual. The language itself is drawing a map.
It really is.
Now, there is one more structural mechanic the grammar exercises focus on heavily, and it deals with conjunctions, specifically the word because.
Ah, yes. Conjunctions are the connective tissue of any language. They allow you to establish cause and effect.
And the exercises highlight this with two specific examples. He could not sleep blank, he was excited, and he went to bed blank, he was tired. In both cases, the student must select because.
If you're learning English, why is the word because so crucial? Well, without it, a story is just a robotic, disconnected list of occurrences.
Right, he went to bed, he was tired.
Exactly. He could not sleep, he was excited. The conjunction is what creates the human element. It provides the underlying motivation. It attaches the physical action to the internal emotion.
It provides the reason why. And when you realize that, it actually forces you to look all the way back to the very first paragraph of the excerpt.
Oh, the murder-suicide.
Yes. The news story said, a man killed a woman, and then he killed himself. People said, he did it because of love.
Wow. It's the exact same grammatical structure, cause and effect.
The exact same structural brick, the word because, is used to explain why a man went to bed early, and it is used to explain the darkest, most violent depths of human passion.
It perfectly illustrates the sheer versatility of simple language.
Yeah.
The mechanics don't change, whether you're talking about mundane tiredness or lethal obsession. The vocabulary might be simple, but the human motivations they describe are infinitely complex.
What an incredibly satisfying loop. So for everyone listening, let's take a step back and look at the whole journey we just took through this language lesson.
Sounds good. We started with a jarring, violent hook about love and death, told in the most basic subject-verb-object structure possible.
Then we used that trauma to trigger a deep memory, transporting us to a quiet, isolated valley.
Right, and we examine how foundational vocabulary words like marsh and mystery can completely alter the psychological atmosphere of a setting, transforming a nature scene into something tense and alive.
Then we met Cousin Carl, whose loud, cheerful, red-faced enthusiasm provided a stark contrast to our quiet, anxious narrator.
And finally, we looked under the hood at the grammar itself, discovering how English uses tense to separate past actions from eternal landscapes, and how a simple word like because is the engine of all human storytelling.
It completely dismantles the idea that you need a massive vocabulary to tell a compelling story.
It really does.
This deep dive proves that you just need to know how to place the simple words you do have in the perfect order.
Before we wrap up our analysis of this excerpt, though, there is one final detail from the text that I think our listeners should really ponder.
Go ahead.
Well, the source material cuts off the story right at the moment of highest tension.
Oh, yeah, it does.
We leave our narrator lying awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence, and waiting for the clock to strike 3 a.m.
The suspense is brutal.
It is. So, based entirely on the vocabulary words we explored today, words like mystery, memory, and marsh, and combining them with that chilling opening news story about a man killing someone because of love.
Oh.
What do you think is actually waiting for them out there in the freezing, silent marsh at sunrise?
Oh, man. It definitely makes you wonder if hunting ducks is the only thing on the agenda.
Right.
It feels like that marsh is hiding something far more dangerous.
It's something for all of us to think about the next time we step into the quiet woods.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this journey today. Keep questioning the simple things, keep exploring those basic bricks of language, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.